The call came on a Tuesday evening, just as I was settling down with a cup of tea after another grueling day at the law firm. Mom's voice had that particular tone, the one she used when she was about to deliver news she knew I wouldn't like, wrapped in false cheerfulness like a bitter pill coated in sugar. "Sweetheart, I have some news about the family retreat," she began, and my heart immediately sank. The annual Whitmore family retreat had been a tradition for over 20 years, ever since Dad's law practice had become successful enough to afford the massive lakeside cabin in the Adirondacks. It was sacred ground where 3 generations gathered every summer to reconnect, share stories, and maintain the bonds that held our sprawling family together. "What kind of news?" I asked, though something in her tone already told me I wouldn't like the answer. "Well, you know how the family has grown over the years. Sarah's bringing the twins now, and Mark's wife is pregnant, so she needs extra space. And your cousin Jennifer is bringing her new boyfriend. You know how important it is that we make a good impression. The thing is, honey, we just don't think there's going to be enough space for you this year." The words hit me like a physical blow. I sat there in stunned silence, my tea growing cold in my hands, as my mother continued to elaborate on the space constraints, the sleeping arrangements, the logistics that apparently made my presence inconvenient. Not impossible, inconvenient. "But Mom," I finally managed, "I've been to every single retreat for the past 15 years. I took vacation time. I already bought my plane ticket." "I know, sweetheart, and we feel terrible about it. But you understand, don't you? You're successful. You're independent. You don't need this the way the others do. Maybe next year we can look into renting a bigger place." The conversation ended with hollow promises and empty apologies, but the message was crystal clear. I was expendable. After 32 years of being part of this family, after building a successful career that they constantly bragged about to their friends, after being the reliable one who never caused drama or demanded attention, I had been deemed unworthy of a space at the family table. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed replaying every family gathering, every holiday, every moment where I had quietly stepped aside to make room for others' needs. I thought about my brother Mark, whose wife had made it clear from day one that she found our family gatherings exhausting, but who would apparently get extra space for her pregnancy. I thought about my sister Sarah, whose twins were adorable but had turned every family event into chaos, with toys scattered everywhere and meals interrupted by tantrums. But most of all, I thought about the cabin itself, the massive, beautiful lakeside retreat that had been in our family for 2 decades, purchased, I suddenly remembered, with a significant financial contribution from my trust fund when I turned 21. Money that my grandmother had left me, money that I had willingly given to help secure this place that was supposed to be our family's haven forever. By morning, I had made my decision. I called in sick to work and spent the day on the phone. First, I called my grandmother's old estate lawyer, then the county clerk's office, then a private investigator I had worked with on a few cases. By afternoon, the picture was becoming clearer, and it was even worse than I had imagined. The cabin wasn't just partially funded by my trust money. It was legally owned by a family trust that, according to the documents I'd never bothered to read carefully, was supposed to be managed equally by all 3 of us siblings. But somehow, over the years, my parents had taken over complete control. They decided who could use it and when. They handled all the bookings and maintenance. And they had never once consulted me or Sarah about any major decisions. More damning still, I discovered that they had been renting it out during off-season periods for the past 5 years, generating substantial income that had never been shared or even disclosed to the beneficiaries. My investigator found records of dozens of rental agreements, wedding bookings, and corporate retreats, all happening at what was supposedly our private family sanctuary. But the real knife in the back came when I dug deeper into the recent bookings. The week of our family retreat, the week I had been told there wasn't enough space for me, was actually booked by a corporate group for a substantial fee. My family had been kicked out not because of overcrowding, but because my parents had found a more profitable use for the property. The betrayal was complete, but instead of crushing me, it crystallized my resolve. I spent the next 2 weeks meticulously planning. I consulted with 3 different lawyers, including one who specialized in trust and estate law. I reviewed every document, every transaction, every rental agreement. I calculated exactly how much income had been generated from the property that should have been shared among the trust beneficiaries. The number was staggering, well into 6 figures. But I didn't want just money, I wanted justice. I wanted them to understand what it felt like to be excluded from something that was rightfully theirs. My plan was elegantly simple. As a co-beneficiary of the trust, I had the legal right to demand an accounting and, if necessary, to petition the court for a new trustee. But I also had a more immediate option. I could exercise my right to use the property during any period when it wasn't already booked by the family. The corporate group had reserved the cabin for a Monday through Friday retreat. Our family gathering was supposed to be the following weekend, but there was a gap, a perfect, legally protected gap that belonged to me. I made my preparations carefully. I arranged for a moving truck, a cleaning service, and a locksmith. I hired a property management company to help coordinate everything. And then, on the Thursday before the family retreat was supposed to begin, I played my card. The call to my parents was brief and to the point. "Hi, Mom. I just wanted to let you know that I'll be using the cabin this weekend for my own gathering. As a co-beneficiary of the trust, I have that right, and I've confirmed with legal counsel that my claim takes precedence since this was originally supposed to be our family time." The explosion was immediate and predictable, shouting, accusations, threats of legal action. But I remained calm, my lawyer training serving me well. "Actually, Mom, I think you'll find that I'm the one who should be considering legal action. I've discovered some interesting irregularities in how the trust has been managed over the past several years. Perhaps we should all sit down with a lawyer present to discuss them." The line went quiet. They knew I had found out. "What do you want?" my father finally asked, his voice tight with controlled fury. "This weekend, I want to use the cabin that my money helped buy for a gathering with people who actually want me there. After that, we can discuss the future management of the trust." Friday morning, I arrived at the cabin with my chosen family. Not the people I was related to by blood, but the people who had shown me genuine love and respect over the years. My law school roommate, Jennifer, and her husband. My mentor from the firm and his wife. 3 close friends from college. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, an elderly widow who had become like a second mother to me. We spent the weekend cooking together, playing board games, hiking the trails around the lake, and sitting on the dock watching sunsets. It was everything a family gathering should be: warm, inclusive, joyful. No one complained about sleeping arrangements or demanded special accommodations. No one made passive-aggressive comments or brought up old grievances. We just enjoyed each other's company in the peaceful sanctuary that my money had helped create. Meanwhile, my biological family was scrambling to find alternative accommodations for their displaced gathering. Through the family grapevine, I heard about the frantic calls, the canceled reservations at overbooked hotels, the tension and arguments as everyone tried to figure out what had gone wrong. My sister Sarah called me on Saturday, her voice a mixture of anger and confusion. "What the hell is going on, Rebecca? Mom and Dad are saying you've stolen the cabin somehow. The kids were so excited about the lake, and now we're stuck in some crappy hotel an hour away, where half the family can't even come because of the distance. I felt a pang of sympathy, especially for the kids, but I steeled myself. Sarah, did you know that Mom and Dad have been renting out the cabin for profit without telling us? Did you know that they canceled our family reservation to accommodate a corporate client who paid them thousands of dollars? The silence on the other end told me she hadn't known. I'm not trying to hurt you or the kids, I continued, but I was told there wasn't space for me at a property that I helped buy because they wanted to make money instead of having a family gathering. I thought you should know the truth. By Sunday evening, as my friends and I packed up our wonderful weekend, my phone was buzzing with calls and messages. Some family members were angry, others were confused, and a few, like my cousin Jennifer, were starting to ask pointed questions about the trust management. The real confrontation came the following Tuesday in the sterile conference room of my law firm. My parents arrived with their own attorney, a family friend who clearly hadn't expected to be dealing with such a complex situation. Sarah came too, looking uncomfortable but determined to understand what was happening. I had prepared meticulously: financial records, rental agreements, trust documents, and a comprehensive accounting of every irregularity I had discovered. My lawyer, a sharp woman in her 50s who specialized in trust disputes, laid out the case with clinical precision. The evidence was damning. Not only had my parents been secretly profiting from the property, but they had also made several unauthorized improvements that had been paid for from the trust account, effectively using all our money for renovations that primarily benefited them. They had changed locks without providing keys to other beneficiaries, had claimed personal expenses as property maintenance, and had consistently violated their fiduciary duty as trustees. The bottom line, my lawyer concluded, is that this trust has been mismanaged to the tune of approximately $240,000 over the past 5 years. Our clients are entitled to full restitution, plus damages, plus the removal of the current trustees. The room was silent except for the air conditioning's hum. My father, usually so commanding and articulate, looked pale and deflated. My mother kept dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, though I noticed the tears seemed more strategic than genuine. "We never meant for it to seem like we were excluding Rebecca," Mom finally said, her voice small. "We just thought the rental income was helping maintain the property. We were going to tell everyone eventually." "Eventually?" I couldn't keep the ice out of my voice. "You told me there wasn't space for me because you had secretly rented our family property to strangers for money. You've been doing this for 5 years without telling any of the beneficiaries. When exactly were you planning to tell everyone eventually?" The negotiations took 3 more meetings over the following 2 weeks. In the end, my parents agreed to step down as trustees to provide full restitution for the improperly collected rental income and to establish a clear, transparent system for managing the property going forward. Sarah and I would rotate as trustees, with my parents having the same access rights as any other family member, no more, no less. But the real victory wasn't financial. The real victory was the shift in family dynamics that followed. Word of the trust disputes spread through our extended family network, and suddenly, people were asking questions about other things too. Why did Mom and Dad always control the holiday schedules? Why were their preferences always the priority? Why had some family members been excluded from certain gatherings over the years, while others were always included? My cousin Jennifer, who had been bringing her boyfriend to meet the family, confided that she had always felt like she had to earn her place at family events. My Uncle Robert admitted that he had stopped coming to some gatherings because he felt like his opinions were never valued. Even my brother Mark, initially angry at me for causing family drama, eventually acknowledged that he had sometimes felt like he had to choose between his wife's comfort and his family relationships. The family retreat the following year was different, smaller, quieter, but infinitely more genuine. We had real conversations instead of performative family bonding. People felt free to express their opinions without fear of being excluded. When conflicts arose, we addressed them directly instead of letting them fester. And when my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, mentioned that she had never seen a mountain lake, several family members immediately invited her to join us. There was plenty of space, after all. My parents and I eventually reached a tentative reconciliation, though our relationship would never be the same. They apologized, genuinely, finally, for excluding me and for the years of financial impropriety. But more importantly, they began to recognize patterns of behavior that had been damaging the family for years. I think we got so used to making decisions for everyone that we forgot to include everyone in the decision-making. Dad admitted during one of our difficult but necessary conversations. We thought we were protecting the family, but we were actually controlling it. The cabin itself became a symbol of this transformation. Instead of being my parents' domain that they graciously shared with others, it became truly communal. We established a fair booking system, with rental income being properly distributed and used for maintenance and improvements that everyone agreed upon. Family members took turns organizing retreats, bringing their own energy and traditions to the space. I learned something important through this ordeal. Sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones who take your love for granted. My parents had assumed that because I was successful and independent, I didn't need the same consideration and inclusion as other family members. They had mistaken my strength for indifference and my reliability for pushover tendencies. But I also learned that standing up for yourself doesn't have to mean destroying relationships. It can mean transforming them. The family that emerged from this crisis was smaller but stronger, more honest but more loving, more complex, but ultimately more genuine. The annual retreat continues to this day, though it looks nothing like the old gatherings. We still swim in the lake and cook meals together and stay up late talking. But now those conversations include everyone's voice. Now the planning includes everyone's needs. Now the space, physical and emotional, is truly shared. And every time I sit on that dock watching the sunset, I remember that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for a family is to refuse to let them take you for granted. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give people is to show them who you really are, especially when, it makes them uncomfortable. The cabin still bears a small plaque that my grandmother had installed when it was first purchased, where family memories are made. But now, finally, that includes memories made by all of us, not just the ones deemed worthy of space at the table.